Wicked Modder here with a send-in service proof video for Tom I. Tom, this is the console that you sent in for X-Key service. So this is a Corona series motherboard inside these R2-D2 Star Wars boxes. 16 megabytes, so we did temporarily glitch it using the Muffin CR4. So we actually had to temporarily install RGH to the console in order to obtain the CPU key. And then by getting the CPU key, that allows us to decrypt the NAND and get the files that we need in order to program the X key so that it can properly emulate the DVD drive. So as you can see, you get totally normal stock boot times. The console is not RGH'd, right? You revert it to stock when you put the X key in it. So it goes to a stock dashboard here. And then what you'll see is that I actually have, and let me show you physically the console here. I have in the back of the console there, and hopefully this will refocus, you can see this little dongle that's hanging out of the back of the console. This is where you plug in the USB hard drive where you're going to store your ISO files. The drive needs to be NTFS formatted. It needs to have a folder named Games, G-A-M-E-S, all lowercase, on the root of the hard drive, the top level, and then you can put all of your ISO files inside of that Games folder, and the X key will scan it. This is only a 16 gigabyte thumb drive, so it only contains a single ISO file. So I'm going to show you how you actually access that and take advantage of it on the console. So what we'll do is we'll hit B on the controller to exit to the normal dash, and then right here at the screen where it says Open Tray, notice I'm gonna hit A on the controller here, but I'm not seeing the physical tray open or close at all. Yet it says close tray and closing, and now is actually going to say there's a mixed media disk in the tray. So what you're going to need to do is right bumper over to the Apps tab, go into My Apps, go to the Picture Viewer, and then you'll go into what it thinks is the current disk, and you'll say the hard drive right there, so I've got it named 16 gigabyte USB, and then any ISO subfolders that you have, and then there's the file itself, and it's telling you eject to load. And what that means is press the eject command, and the X key will load that ISO. So if I go back to the dashboard by pressing the center guide and then Y, and then I press at the bottom of the screen, you can see it says Y to eject, so I press Y once more. It ejects, even though physically nothing's happening here. It closes, and then it's going to behave just as if that disk was actually in the console. So it's going to play that Darksiders game just as if the physical disk was in the tray and it was reading from that. The X key is pretending to be the DVD drive. And this particular game just has a kind of a long black pause before it throws that first THQ. I actually pulled out my disk of it to test, and it does the same thing, so it's not anything wrong. So, yeah, the proof is in the pudding. The one other thing that you really have to know, so just like the disc was in there, we can play this game. The one thing you really have to know is that in order to use your disk drive as normal, you actually have to power up the console differently. So I'm going to go back to the stock dashboard and demonstrate something for you here. If you watch the physical console up here, if I press the eject button, nothing happens. I mean, I get the sound, which I love, by the way. But the disk drive isn't physically opening, right? How do I actually put a disk in here if I want to these days? So what you actually have to do is you have to turn the console off. From an off state, you actually have to boot the console by turning it on using the eject button. So I just well, it was still turning off. I'm turning it on using the eject button, and notice the tray actually does eject here. It really is that. So now the X key is in bypass mode, and for the entire time the console is on right now, it's going to only work from the disk drive, the physical disk drive. So if I want to go back into X key mode, I have to actually power the console off again, and then I have to turn it on using the regular power button or a controller, and it will be in X key service mode and will read off of the USB that's on there. So all of that done, proof video, we'll get this thing packed up and headed back out your way. It'll actually be on Monday because mail's already run. So thanks very much for your business, and hope you enjoy.